My journey, my personal journey, which I did not start out in engaging and enduring, is one where I have realized I must lead by example, which has been very difficult. And I also must learn to validate those aspects that I feel are important to be validated. Now, the basis upon which I am asking for validation of those master sculptors within my collection are predicated on the inability of 99.9% of the artistic community's ability to do what we have here. It is literally separation predicated on the fact that if I ask the master sculptors to do the chalk drawings and sketches, they do them, and then they create on stone what is actually presented in the sketch. So it's not by accident. Indeed, it is by intention. And the fact that they are not being validated and valued, predicated on that, is what has now informed me that I now need to go into a much deeper, direct action to understand how to create value, which is respected before it is even valued globally. This is the difference between the global North artists and why I attribute master sculptor titles to those in my collection, and why they are not craftsmen. They're true artists, master sculptors.
My names are Peter, Kenyanya, Oendo. Oendo is my family name, and my grandfather's name was Mzee William Mirienyi Ongesa. I'm a sculptor. I come from Kisii. Kisii is in the western part of Kenya, and my family is well known for handcraft production. I took it after my father and my grandfather, and also my great-grandfather was also doing sculpture. I took after them, and whatever that I'm doing right now is because of them. And I also hope that I'll have my children take after me when their time comes. Thank you.
I am Gerard Motondi. I'm a Kenyan sculptor, born and brought up in Western Kenya, a place called Kisii, Tabaka, which is about 350 kilometers west of Nairobi. And this is where I learned my art of stone carving.
I'm Okeyo Mbera. I'm a sculptor. I'm an Afro-Cubism artist and sculptor. I come from Kisii and I live in Nairobi working from my studio in Ongatonga.
99.9% of most sculptors, of most painters, cannot do what these master sculptors have done. Objectively, not subjective. It's objective. And my point is, if that's indeed the case, then why are they not being put in their rightful position for the fact that they have a uniqueness?
And the community, the people in the family were working on stone. But this time they were just small pieces of animal motifs and bird motifs. And then later on, they were developed to the touristic art pieces. So I learned the skill through apprenticeship by seeing my father, my cousins, my other people working on the stone. And when I'm out of school over the weekends, I could just sit near them, see how they are trying to chip out with the machete, and then work with small knives, pen knives, and then produce something interesting. And as they were cutting, the cheap things are the ones that I was picking and working on them. And it so happened that I acquired that skill. And when I went now during my time in school, I realized I had the capability of translating and imaginating and then translating this one into stone. So the basis and the foundation of my art is actually from my community, the Kisii stone carvers.
I would say that I did not get formal training on like in a school environment or something like that. But I had mentorship from my grandfather, and it was not intentional. It's something that, you know, you still glances. You just go there because you are very close to him. you observe him unintentionally. Just maybe you are having a meal and he's doing his skills, and you are just looking at it. So you find that with time you catch the fever, and from there the rest is history. So at times when we reached a point that we thought that we needed to make some money, would go and maybe when my grandfather is not around, we'd steal his tools and use them to create little small sculptures, maybe handcraft, these handcraft whatever items, and we'd go and sell them at very minimal amounts of money. And after that, we had money. We were considered kids, spoiled kids, because kids from other villages did not have as much money as we did. So when we were at school, sometimes we had sweets in our pockets, and while the teacher was teaching, we just remove them and start chewing. The rest of the children were envious of us. So that kept us going, because we wanted to look like we were special in a way. So it encouraged us to work more and get more money. So the more you were encouraged, the more you were stealing our parents' tools. But as time progressed, I reached a point where I became of age, and my father was a teacher back then. Let his soul rest in peace. He was a teacher, and while he was away at school, he would leave some work for me to go and fetch some stones from the quarry, and then he would instruct me on how to cut them with my brother. So we did that. And with time, I learned a lot from that, because that allowed me to freely use his tools. Because at that point, I would not afford to buy any tools, although they were cheap tools like the carpentry tools. And time came when I did away with my schooling. I finished schooling, and I started to now work on my own. And that is when now the skills that I learned from my grandfather and also my father and my uncles came in handy.
Actually come from Kisii in the village that is more of a stone carving village, where we have what we call handcraft carving, and interacting by very many artisans around during my days. That's how I got my way also to get some experiences till the time I came to Nairobi and started working with my fellow artists and mentors. I worked with then I worked with Motondi, I worked with Pete as well, and I worked with some others as well in different projects. And by 2010, I used to work under the apprentice of Mzee Kalongesa, who passed last year. And from there, I think that's how I came out to start to interact with I knew Motondi a long time ago, but I came to know people like Motondi from almost of arts, and I knew them from Elkana as well. And also how we came from Elkana to Mr. MM, so also interacted like that across the board, because we were all from the same tree. When I say the same tree, I mean we came from the same village as well, but we are growing into different roots.
My challenge is that as I am confronted with more and more people who may wish to engage me, yet they don't know how I wish to be engaged. I just wish to preemptively, rather than postscriptively, provide them with an understanding of these are the areas in which we can now, or this is how I would wish to engage.
Kisii stone carving, a traditional, is a craft, because this is a reproduction of the same piece in several ways. And so that repetition, the skill that one has acquired, you don't even need a tape measure. When you see them, they will just be rolling the knife, and as they are talking, and the work is fascinating. So I learned that as a craft. But more importantly to me, it was acquisition of the skills. And once I have acquired the skill now when I gave it the academic background or direction, then I realized I could now be more innovative, more creative, more imaginative. And because of that, I could say that I didn't go to the realistic or the realism perspective, but basically I diverted my attention from the actual birds, from the actual animals, and gave it an abstract perspective or semi-abstract perspective. Why? This is because I believe that people interpret what they see differently. And my abstract or semi-abstract art gives the observer or the viewer the freedom to interpret whichever way he sees. And because of that, because the person is interpreting it in his own way, in his own perspective, then there is that attraction and there's that dialogue between him and my work of art. When I had, from the traditional stone hand tools to the current power tools, is a transition that started when I visited China for the first time. So in China, I found the stones that were there, marbles, the granites, and all those were very hard stones and could not be worked on using the hand tools. So I discovered in China they were using the power tools. So what did I do? Back in Kenya, we have several of these stones. So I bought the power tools from China, came with them to test and see if they work on the Kenyan stones. Amazing, they did. So that's how now I transited from hand tools and a combination of both hand and power tools. And then from the small pieces that we were working in Kisii stone, then I said, once I have made my model, then with my academic understanding of scale, that I can translate this to any other size, be it 5 meters, 3 meters, 10 meters, as long as I have the concept and the idea of how to handle the material to make it up to what I desire. Whatever you create depends on 3 aspects. The first aspect is the material, and in my case is the stone. And we have different types of stones. For example, in Kenya, we have Kisii soapstone, which is a unique stone that I learned carving in my youthful moments. Then we have the granites. Kenya is endowed with different types of granites. We have green granite found in Kisii. We have black granite found in Eastern Province in Machakos County. We have the red granite also found in Machakos County and parts of Kisii. We have the gray granite, which is found in Kakamega. So we have about 10 types of granites, and this has been proven and documented that granite can last for 300 million years. The second idea, apart from the material, is actually the theme. What is it that I want to communicate? What's the theme? Is it a cultural theme? Is it a religious theme? What values are carried within that theme? And because of that, then it will make me choose a stone or select a stone depending on what is going to be within that stone. And again, sometimes you can be dictated by the shape of the stone to produce what you want. In the working process, you may have accidents. And again, I believe that accident is part of the design. Because as it breaks, then it gives you room to see how do you take it. And you end up coming up with a very interesting scenario dictated by the stone in the moment of that dialogue. I want to make this to be a curve. And as you are cutting on the other side, there is a plane. And on the other side, there's another depression that says, no, I need something here. Then after you have finished creating the general shape, then now say, okay, there is a very interesting natural texture of the stone that you don't want to touch, that you don't want to spoil. You want to retain it within that sculpture. Again, you look at the stone and say, okay, this color that is here, I'm gonna not touch it. On the other side, this void, I think I need to polish it very clean. And on the other side, again, you say, okay, here I've just left the chisel marks. I want the chisel marks to remain. So you have contrast created within that sculpture. Because I also believe that part of the themes of my sculptural works is the belief that there's that communication about the duality. Life is not always very smooth. Sometimes it is rough, sometimes smooth. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And all this is incorporated in the work. Sometimes it's natural. So you leave the natural texture, the smooth texture where it is so good, the rough texture when things are not good, and then this evokes emotions. And again, not only for the people who are visually able to see. My work can also be for those who are visually impaired, because I take that one as the 4th dimension. When somebody who is blind or visually impaired, when they touch, they feel the stone, then they appreciate the work.
There are many implicit constructs within the concepts of TMMSAC evolving from conception to where it is now as an originating convener. But what I want to start out with is the concept of permanence. The beauty and importance of many of the sculptures in this collection, and that is why I laugh when you talk about the Medici family, because and it is very kind of you to do that. But this will only make sense in an African context, likely in 2130 and beyond, maybe 2022, 30 and beyond.
If you look at my work, since when I was young and I was working with soapstone, there's quite a bit this change from the first ones up to where we are today. And this change has been brought about by, first of all, experience. Because when I was working with soapstone, I had a totally different set of tools that I was using. And now the tools that I'm using, mostly the power tools, are also different in the sense that they also play a role in the outcome of whatever that I'm doing. Also, the size of the sculptures matters a lot because the tools have some control. You also have to control what you want to carve or to create. So there are so many factors which are at play. But let me also say that my village has also shaped my work a lot because the experiences which I used to get when I had not come out of the village, for instance, when I was beginning to work on my own and I had people who wanted to buy my work, they could at times, control the type of whatever that they wanted me to do. But now, since I became matured, let me say, usually I look at what I have to do that can universally appeal to quite a cross-section of people. Like maybe some forms might not necessarily appeal to the Western world, and some might not necessarily appeal to the African or Kenyan people. So I try to balance between what is more universal, but that is aesthetic. When I was young, I used to have a recurring dream of like these kind of forms. So now there are like layers and layers of them in my mind. So sometimes when I'm asleep, they come like visions, and near my bed, I usually sometimes put a pen and a paper because it comes like a season, and I have to draft them or sketch them. So as time goes by, maybe I can sketch like 20 within a period of like, let's say 6 months. Then at the time of implementation, you find that it has become like a series. So that is like one way of me getting to where I am today, like what drives my style and why do I do this style. We have now a series which is upcoming, which is geometrical. And it's about freedom, the role of women in freedom fighting in Kenya. And it's completely non-figurative. It's geometrical, like this one, which is in front of me. They are about the role that women played in the struggle for freedom for this nation. And I have come to, I have 3 women who have already narrowed down to. One of them is called Mekatiriri Wamenza. She was a fighter from the Griama community in the coast. And another one is called Field Marshal Muthoni. Kimathi, the wife of the late Ethan Kimathi. The statue for Kimathi has been done, but the statue for Muthoni, Field Marshal Muthoni, has not been done. And also, back in my village, we also had another one called Morangiti. Now, this Morangiti was stepmother to one of the fighters, the freedom fighters, who I have made a commemorative sculpture, which is on display at the one of art gallery in Runda. So I'm in the process of trying to see how now that, because the Okeyo sculpture, which is at one of gallery, is figurative, but the ones I'm planning now are in geometrical abstract style. So I'm trying to use this geometrical style to bring more right about these freedom fighters who are women whose achievements have not been captured maybe in stone. I don't know if there's anybody who has done that, but I want to do it in my own style, in abstract.
And one of the reasons why I love working in stone is because a stone is a natural material. And when it is placed, unlike metals and these other materials, then you find that stone will not pollute the environment because it's environment friendly. So if a sculpture is put somewhere, whether there is rain or the chemical reaction may not affect the environment, may not poison the environment. And indeed, because of that, then the understanding of the composition of this stone is very important to me. Many times, because we are working with stone, there is dust. You need to understand, will it affect your lungs? Will it affect your breathing? And that's the scientific component of it. And many times we take these stones for research to find out what's contained in them. And this was part of my postgraduate study, that the granites that are next to the water mass are more harder than the granites that are away from the water masses. And this is documented. And actually, I've proved that. The granites that I use from Nyanza near Lake Victoria are harder than the granites I get from Machakos County. For example, we have the rare green granite. The rare green granite is found in Kisii. And within that Kisii area, when you just dig on the other side, as you come from the green granite, then you come from the basalts. And the basalt initially in Kenya, they were used as gravel or ballast for construction of the roads and construction of the buildings. And basically, when we were collecting these for sculpture work, people were asking, what are you going to use it for? And initially, people never believed, especially in Kenya, that we can cut that and convert them into sculpture. You'll find that because of time and the reaction of the atmospheric factors, then they will have formed a crust within the rock. And this crust will give you several layers of the stone, the basalt stone, and when you cut across it, you'll find the skin that is almost red or green or brown. And as you go inside, then it comes gray to bluish color. And now when you cut across this and you work on a big sculpture, you will find that you have created the three colors. There is the blue color in it, there's the greenish color, then there's the brown color within that one piece of stone. And this is what marvels other people, because it's like you have an X-ray to see what the stone has. But it's because of the understanding from the experience of working on these stones over a given period of time, then you understand what the stone contains and what the stone has.
When I see the stone, I can detect it by knowing how it might be inside without even opening it. Or if it has a small struck on it, that will give me an insight how it looks like inside. And if it looks good, it will give me some energies to try to make it something to reveal more beauty of the stone. As always, you know, Mr. Mutuma says about stones talking to some of us. Me, I used to like them because of their colors as well, their characteristics. And that used to encourage me to try to work on the stone to see more beauty embedded into the stone. And I feel like once I bring it out, both process, how it changes, the process till it's done, I like how it ends. So my enthusiasm will not stop till I see final polished stone, how it's going to look. And that's now the beauty of the sculpture also. That's what encourages or triggers my interest to work on the stone till I see what it looks at the end. Number one, actually, what I experienced is that stones have different characteristics, and it has what we call different grains. And the grains might change from the color you're saying. It can be dark, it can be dust gray, it can be white, it can be, those are surprises. But when I noticed that, I started to know how to handle the stone so that I can align the harmony of the natural grains into the line to the sculpture design. So that's how, those are the surprises, but I noticed them, and that's why I started to control them to be aligned with my design without also going against them.
What is most important to understand about the collection as it is and it stands on its face is that unlike all of the works that are currently being produced in the painting sphere, these basalt rocks will last thousands, tens of thousands of years. So the joke is, starting with the end in mind, is this is a permanent collection. Now, when you start with that concept of the fact that if I was gathering all these rock and stone sculptures as paintings, in 2130, many of those contemporary paintings will have disintegrated, will have lost, will have actually been completely, frankly, deconstructed. These stone sculptures will remain and will likely outlast any other artistic form that is created and generated in the African context. So you need to understand that concept of permanence.
The choice of the materials in my work, I prefer mostly to use basalt. The reason number one, it works well with the environment because it absorbs carbon from the environment. So that gives it an advantage over the others. Reason number two, I have one of the people who I look up to, who was a sculptor from many years ago, called Isamu Noguchi. Isamu Noguchi also worked mainly in basalt. So I emulate him, and I want uniformity in my work, and I have selected now basalt to be one of the best stones. But sometimes it also depends on the preference in color. If I'm commissioned, if the client wants this or that stone, then I'll have to go with that. But basically, what we have is a variety that you can choose from: reds, gray, green, black, within a certain small area. And let me talk about soapstone. Soapstone is very soft. It's not very suitable for outdoor placements. It's usually good in the indoors because it can break when you expose it to the sunshine and the rainfall. It might break eventually. Yeah, so I have a variety of stones to choose from: red, black, green, and in our national flag we have even white. We have black standing for the people of Kenya, green for our vegetation, and the black for the blood that was shed during the struggle. So we have almost like we have a flag of Kenya within the range of stones that I use. When I say that I listen to the stone talk to me, what I mean is that we have a conversation. The stone seduces me into like having an attachment with it, and sometimes if it's a small piece of stone, you carry it because it will be like an immediate attachment. But with the bigger stones, it takes time. Sometimes if it's off my normal route, I'll make it a habit of using that alternative route where the stone lies. For instance, like the commemorative sculpture of the freedom fighter, Okeyo, I found the stone in an alternative route. It's not in my normal route where I usually pass every time when I was driving. And it happened to be on a slope. So when I was driving down the hill, I would see the stone right in front of me. Then on my way back, the same. So I started to have a very strong attraction to the stone until that time when I could not resist it anymore. And I started to make calculations on how I could get it home so that it can give me what I have seen in it. So usually you see through the stone and you see what is going to come out of that. Like the figure, it's in your mind, and you have to project it on the stone, and you get exactly that which is on your mind. You get it on the stone, and that is when you cannot resist from doing whatever that you have to do with the stone. And usually, sometimes it's challenging because maybe the rock is too big for you to like carry in my ordinary car, so I have to look for many people. Because in the villages, you understand that we do not have the lifting technology. It's very expensive. Hiring the vehicles to carry this is also very expensive. So when you find that at last you have made like arrangements for you to have it lifted to your workshop, then it means that whatever connection that you have with that piece of stone is very strong. It's stronger than anything that you can think about. So that is how I usually get attracted to the stones, and that is how we get a conversation going between me and the stone. We have a very strong attachment. You have an image in your mind, and it's there. It's as I said earlier, I have layers and layers of these images in my mind, and they keep on downloading, like occasionally and intentionally, just sleeping, and some of them they just come. It's like a vision. So somehow you are walking and you see the stone, and that stone fits exactly what you have in your mind. And sometimes it's the stone you find first before you find the vision. So it comes in a two-way kind of a way, whereby you have the vision in your mind, and you are sleeping there and you are thinking, oh, where can I find this material, and I do something with it. And the other one is you have found the material, and now the stone gives you the vision. Yeah. So it's a two-way, but mine usually works in the sense that we have a conversation until we reach that point of attachment, whereby I have my vision comes out, which fits that rock.
Basalt is promising that it's weather-friendly or across the board or around the world without getting any problems. So if anyone buys, because it's international, it's very dynamic, it will stay forever and it will not change because of the weather or something, or get bruised, or if it gets water or cold weather, it will still withstand that. All types of weather or sun cannot break it. When we talk again about green basalt, it might have lines, it might have those aggregation of different materials inside, like the white and brown, green, and what. They can be found in that stone. But as we go beyond the beauty of sculptures, as something like we did with Mr. MM about the Roots of Return exhibition about the stones and climate change. So that's the time we notice, some of us notice that the stones are what is inside there again. It has a meaning. It's not a bad thing. It's there. It's there because it's original that it should be there, because that's how the world formed. It's especially when things were changing, all from the lava, and when it's cold, it gets some hair inside those stones. So the white, we knew that that's carbon as well. Some aggregation of round things that you've never seen, but even when you break them, you might get is a round stone, and it's something else that looks very funny, but it's a stone that's in between, but you cannot see it till you break the bigger stone. As an artist, let's say when you use the power tools, you cannot start using power tools without knowing if what type of stone and what type of material is that you're going to use to cut that. Because some of them cannot work. Some of them might be a bit dangerous to work with, and those stones. So that know-how, I think, is close to engineering and scientific inventory as well into that, because also even those people who make those tools as well, what we are doing, they don't know about what we are doing.
Nature basically is very unforgiving if you mistreat it. Nature is unforgiving if you snatch from it. Nature requires that we also stay with it in harmony. And one of the ways of staying in nature with harmony is to understand what you give back to nature and what nature gives to you as a person. Now, as an artist or as a sculptor, I use stone. And this is why I said I like stone, because stone is natural. And when I place it within the nature, it decorates the aesthetic view. The aesthetic appeal of that particular natural environment is enhanced through the artwork that I've done. Look at the 5 president sculpture in America. It is done in situ. The stone is not taken away. This is part of giving back to nature, beautifying that particular nature without necessarily spoiling it. Now, when we mine, where we mine the Kisii stone or where we mine the granites, there is a policy within the government and the National Environmental Authority, NEMA. You have to get a license for you to excavate. And then there's agreement that once you have excavated that particular place, because some of the stones are below the ground, and because people are staying in that area, they need food from within that area. Then what we do after excavating the stone, the remaining parts of stone are taken back. The chippings are taken back to refill. Refilling is done in that area. Then soil is covered on top, and other agricultural activities which are natural can take place within the same area. We can plant trees. We do plant trees within that area so as to improve. Initially, when they are the rock, then you find that within that particular area where the rock is, there's no tree that can grow. So when the rock has been converted into a work of art, placed within an environment, then that area now that has left is planted, trees are planted there. As the trees grow, then if it was a basalt quarry, then the carbon capture and the exchange between the oxygen of the plants and the conversion and the capture of carbon dioxide by the rocks, then that exchange continues.
So for me, what I'm interested in is the concept of just narrowing what is considered to be a wide gap, which will necessarily be narrowed because the population of the world is demographically is moved towards Africa. And Africans are going to be looking towards this collection in future. I can guarantee you, definitely, by 2130, they'll be turning around and saying, Mr. Mutuma was doing this, he did that. Not that my legacy is that of importance, but I want it to be a reference, which gives great clarity of thought, intentional purpose, so that people will know that we also are thinkers too. We're not, and the master sculptors are doers. They didn't merely ephemerally view the world, which is what I feel is the unique objective position that this collection can have and will have in future.
For me, I think our work is that I don't go by the flow of the stone. What I do is I go by my design, and I stick to my design as well. So that's different from other sculptors. Sculptors who promote the natural color of the stone. So I see the material as it's like a book, a free book that is not written anything. And when I start to write it, I'll write it my way. And when I write it my way, that's where you see I make Afro-Cubism journey. It's a journey, it's a different type of sculpture. Maybe if you try to look around in Africa, you might notice that it's not close to what people believe or what people think or people have been seeing that's coming from Africa.
I used to work from here in Nairobi, but because of some reasons, I decided to move to the village. My village is far from Nairobi, and it's very hard for people to come all the way to my village to come and see my sculpture. But somehow I had to make that sacrifice to leave the opportunities that come with living in the city and go all the way to Kisii, where I have established a workshop. And this is an experimental kind of workshop where we experiment with stones, different types of stones. We experiment with the tools, and we also experiment with many other things. Like, for instance, the basalt stones, where I cut the specific place where I do the cutting, there are certain type of crops that do very well because of the dust that comes out of the stones. That's number one. Number two, sometimes you find that you are involved in an accident. So that is an experiment of its own kind. Because otherwise, if you don't learn the hard way, you might not learn at all. So, like recently, I had an accident whereby when I was drilling on a stone, it hit my leg and I had a cracked bone. I stayed out of work for a number of months. So, I will not repeat the same mistake. Because now I've experimented with my body and I know that if I go this route, then it's not good. And I've also carried experiments with Mutuma about the basalt stones, whereby we cut them and they were taken to the laboratories where they were researched by professors who said that indeed they are carbon observing capable. They have the capabilities of observing carbon from the environment. And many other experiments. And my style keeps on evolving because I have the freedom to experiment. I have the tools, I have the time. I'm not regulated by anybody. I don't have a ceiling over me. I just do what I want each and every day. I'm not regulated by any market or anybody. I just wake up, I do what I want to do, and that is that. Probably what shapes my work is my curiosity. Like I want to know what does this stone look like when it's polished? How does it feel to cut it? What will come out? So maybe probably it's curiosity that drives me more than being dictated by the market, being scouted by somebody or this your style should go like this. No, I usually it's me and my stone and my tools and time. So time, stone, myself equals to what you are seeing in front of us today. And usually when I go to these international symposiums, whatever that I do there is based on the experiments. For example, sometimes I do an experiment and without my knowledge, the stone is lying there and when I see a certain theme of a symposium, I just pick one of the experiments and I show them and they say, yes, this is what we want. So even the international symposiums, they don't shape my work because I usually do whatever that I have in my mind. And maybe at that particular moment when I was doing that sculpture, there was something that was going on in my mind. And they keep on coming and coming each and every day. Different, new, yeah.
I wrote an extensive memo on Originating Convener born out of the disappointment of the inability for me to have a clear demarcation between all of the individuals and entities that go onto a platform that can provide clarity of roles and clarity of attributions and clarity of actually where TMMSAC saw itself. The first time that when TMMSAC was created, it was to clarify the difference between monuments and exhibition-sized sculptures. In that case, it became clear that there was a need to also even segment those master sculptors' pieces that were within the collection from those that were resident with them. In this case of TMMSAC then evolving into an originating convener construct, it was to actually provide all parties who would come to TMMSAC with an understanding of how it wishes as TMMSAC to engage with them from the beginning, so that if it's not possible or convenient, there can be means of self-selecting and avoiding disappointment, avoiding misunderstandings, and more importantly, to create environments where things can flourish at a very fast and high rate to the levels that they would wish to evolve into?
One day I went to Mr. M. Once I knew him through the dancing band, American Embassy. So I told him, even though I worked in the dancing band, but I had the idea of doing a sculpture style that is more different than anything you've seen or anything that people have seen in this world. I want to change that narrative of Africans motif that they call it primitive to modern sculpture, which is titled Afro-Cubism Journey. And it's a journey. So he said, how can you do it and what do you want? Because I told him, I cannot carve stone without tools because I know where the tools are because I know this, I've done research. So if I get those tools, I can bring it into life. So that's the time he came out and said, I can sponsor you to get the tools, everything you want, bring it out. And this is what I brought out in the 2014 Afro-Cubism journey of about 21 sculptures or 20 sculptures. So that came into life, and that's how I started my journey. I've done 2, I'm doing the 3, and the 3 is continuing. And I believe the SEJ 3, which we call Afro-Cubism journey number 3, is amazing as well because it focuses mostly about African, or it's more global or dynamic. It talks about things in life, about culture, about what. It talks about music. It talks about how people operate in this modern life. Themes and motifs are African, but the theme is dynamic. It's more universal it can represent anyone in the world without limiting that or it's white or it's a black or it's from which country. It's very global. If I can look inside here, when we talk about what you see inside here, this is titled Living Words. Living Words is about, if you can see, it's more like stairs. It has a generation of people from down to up there to the back side. So it's about the generation, how the generations go from down to the other side again. So the Living Words is the living of advice from anyone who, it's a passage, a kind of passage, you know. You get from your mother, you continue with it to your family, you have to pass it through generations. So those are living words. So that was one of them that looks fascinating, and they are like this one. We might call it this more dynamic. We call it intermarriage. When we say intermarriage, we say about the modern world, about intermarriage. Like long time people used to marry from their own tribe or culture. They were not able to marry from other countries. So nowadays it's a more dynamic that anyone can marry from any type of race or any type of community in the country. Afro-Cubism is all about African culture. It has everything embedded in Afro-Cubism about the themes, about everything was done, dating of events, of everything. So Cubism is not the sculpture. If you say it's a sculpture, yes, but it has information in between embedded about history. African history, when you talk about, let's say, the clothes they used to wear, you talk about how they used to stay in the clans or class. They used to stay together, things like that. That was unity. How they used to do about things like about their life every day. How they did about their lifestyle, environment, schooling. So those things are under the Afro-Cubism motif. It's about also Africa, but it's more dynamic because the Africans we have nowadays are modern Africans. If you put it in a primitive way, the modern one will not understand what you're saying. So that's why I do it in a 4D, and I do it in a modern way, in an open way, in a very dynamic and universal way, so that it can touch everyone, even those who are born today. They'll know when you talk about Afro-Cubism. They say, what is this? Afro-Cubism, is it music? No, it's not music. It's the whole thing having everything about culture. It's a movement. It's a journey, style sculpture, but it's a movement.
With the master sculptors, we have a great relationship in that sense, and a very transparent one. So I'm less having to define how we engage. Mine is to ensure that they have all the aspects necessary for them to continue to thrive and to proceed and grow.
I'm seeing myself at the same level with maybe people like Brancusi, the Romanian famous sculptor, and also this Isamu Noguchi, the Japanese-American artist. And because of the availability of materials and time and space, I want to work on big scale sculptures like never before. And right now I'm actually working on my own sculpture park named after myself, where I would have only my work, and the work will mainly be from basalt stones. This is something that people start to realize in later life when maybe they are old and they cannot achieve that. But myself, I started it at an age whereby I've gained enough experience. I have materials. Now I'm working on like where and the when, but not how. I already have the how. And in connection to that, since I moved to the village in Kisii, I started to do tree planting. I already have about over 6,000 trees planted. And now some of them are like 10 feet tall since I planted them 3 years ago, 2.5 years actually ago. That is how I connect my sculpture with the environment. Like for each big sculpture I create, I have to plant like 10 to 15 trees around the sculpture. And for the medium ones, I have to plant medicinal or fruit trees. And for the smallest ones, like this one, I have to plant herbal trees, like mint and things like that. So for me, I think the future is very bright if things go the way I planned them. And in 20 years to come, we will have a sculpture park named after Peter Kenyanya.
In future, and in cooperation with my other artists from the community who are working with the Mutuma Marangu Sculpture Commission, we want to enhance the spirit of this cooperation that we started. And we have what we call African Stone Stock International Sculpture Symposium. And it will be an avenue where we shall have artists from other countries come. And when they're working, this is where for each sculptor, we attach 5 young men. For each sculptor, so if we have 5 sculptors times 5, we shall be training 25 youths within the community or within the country. And by so doing, then we shall have to pass this skill to the upcoming artists. So this is my idea, that we revive the African Stone Stock International Sculpture Symposium. And I'm now thinking of maybe the possibility of also authoring books that can be used for the high school and also for colleges, teacher training colleges, as parts of the academic aspect of enhancing sculpture, and then enhance and impact and pass messages to the people of this noble country.
What I must say first is that Afro-Cubism is global, is dynamic. It's not something for Kenyans. It's for Africa. It represents every black person by gathering more information about African culture. So he who or she who want to go to Afro-Cubism and check what Afro-Cubism is, he will be able to get more information about Africa, about African culture, where you'll get anything about Kenya, you'll get anything about other countries in Africa. So I believe when I do my sculptures, I've represented what I can be able to do. And the next level might need a team of very many people to come in and also take it to the next level as they wish, of which I might not be to do, because it will depend that if I know how to carve and do those sculptures to the extent of finished sculpture and writing about the stories, there are people also who knows how to put it and push it to put it in platforms where it should be. That's also possible. So it's a broad thing and it's open as well for people to come in and give ideas and say it's a dialogue. It's more like a table of a dialogue for people to come and give views and give public opinion as well and they can suggest anything. So it's a platform, but it's for Africa, it's representing Africa to the world as well.
The thing that has driven me very deeply has been a set of exchanges which I personally had in the early 1980s with a dear friend of mine by the name of Dr. Jennifer Chapman, who, when I was in university, and by the way, when I was in university, I was an economics major at Vassar College. Vassar College is known for its art history and its art culture, and it is very, for lack of a better way of putting it, very cultured and very artistic focused. I was an economics major because I could not afford the concept at that time of focusing on art. But Dr. Chapman, who is a very dear friend of mine who lives in New York, introduced me in either I believe it was 1983, to a young man who came to speak at our school by the name of Jean-Michel Basquiat. So I met him in our local canteen, at the college canteen. It was at that time when I'm engaging with him. Unfortunately, he was not sober, but we had a fascinating conversation with her, Dr. Jennifer, Jean-Michel Basquiat, and myself, that she always was telling me, Mutuma, buy the art of your peers. And at that time, she told me to buy one of Jean-Michel Basquiat's $5,000 painting sculptures. The net result was that I was unable to buy it because I didn't have the money. But some of those paintings from that era are now worth more on an individual basis than all of Africa's collections of art. I then say, because I then went into the commodity realm, where I turned around and I said, mispricing of values are such that one must be cognizant of the fact that you must understand the basis by which people are valuing each other's works. And when there's an immense mispricing, it means to me that either they are inferior, which they are not, or that there's a misperception and misunderstanding of what that actually means in practice. To me, this is the original basis of, aside from the permanent construct. It was, why is it that that the person that I met in the early 1980s, he as an individual is worth more than the total of African art since conception. And by the way, he's also, an African himself, but living in New York. So I turn around and I say, wow, there's something existentially wrong here. And it is against that backdrop that I've turned around and I said that I wish now to go about the process of systematically and sequentially narrowing this gap